But it's not just get me out of town. It's get me out of town to a particular place, which is really what's screwing things up apparently right now. And that's what kind of pisses me off as an Eagles fan, is that why shouldn't he want to go to the Bears if he just wants to get the hell out of here? The Bears were a playoff team last year. They're a quarterback away from being a really good team. They got a good defense. They got some good components on that offense outside of the quarterback. He could be the difference. No, I didn't mean to derail your quarterback thought here.
Oh, no, that's fine with me.
Go
ahead.
No, but I'm saying, like, you're right, though, because the first pick we all know is going to be Lawrence going to Jacksonville. The second
saying he's saying he's going to be a generational talent. I mean, this kid has been good since flag football in Cali back in the day.
He'd better be. Because the hype has been there since he got to Clemson, even before maybe he got to Clemson.
Exactly, in the Nike camps. Yeah.
Hopefully for his sake and for Jacksonville's sake and Urban Meyer's sake and his stress level's sake, he does deliver. But you're right. The second pick is where this whole thing could be, as our old podcast used to say, derailed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Depending on what the Jets do.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I like that, though.
Yeah, I do too, but we're also... we're looking at, I think, just this hostage situation where we go through we've become what the mock drafters are, which is trying to figure out 50 or 60 different scenarios based on all of the different possibilities of what could happen at 2. And then you have to factor in a team like the Eagles, who could easily do one of 2 things equally, I would think, move up or down. The Eagles right now have the ammunition and power if they think Carson can bump them up with picks and move up from 6 to 3 or something like that, just like they can move back from 6 to 15 or something. So it just feels like the quarterbacks, we can't escape it.
No.
Unless we don't talk about the NFL, we can't escape the quarterbacks.
Right. And now, what you're starting to see, and this started a couple of days ago, is that it's basically Carson who is standing in the way of going to possibly Chicago because he doesn't want to go to Chicago. It's not that he doesn't want to go to Chicago. He wants to go play for Frank Reich in Indianapolis, is really what this is shook out to be. And it's Indianapolis or bust. And basically that's going to put Howie Roseman in such a difficult spot because he's not going to be able to get near the value. You talk about market value, Barrett. It's not even going to be close to what you should get for a franchise starting quarterback, under the age of 30 in the NFL. And it's all because Carson won't even entertain the idea of going to Chicago so they can play one off the other.
Well, that's kind of a
balls
farce
on
though.
him.
Well, you can't say that because at this point they could trade him whenever they want. They can say, all right, and not give him a choice. We're going to trade you to Chicago. The only thing is the Bears want to guarantee that he's going to come over and play nice when he gets there.
Well,
but you can't get that. You can't get a guarantee. All right, look at this. If I was Carson, I wouldn't care what anybody said about, anything, because at this point, what has Carson done? Yes, he was the, troublemaker in the past. It's not really a troublemaker, but he wasn't the nicest guy. He's kind of socially challenged.
Not the greatest leader.
Yeah, not the greatest
uniter of men.
Yes.
And there's a coach there who, if they can't get confirmation from Carson with a guy who coached him here, then what does that say?
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about a guy who was never in that building, Barrett. Flip has been in that building and has battled Carson, and they can't get whatever confirmation they want from Carson ahead of time. And that's a guy who coached with him.
Yeah.
That's a guy who has a connection with him.
Okay, would you, though? Look at it from Carson's point of view. Would you want to give the Eagles any kind of a good notion that, or any type of way? I wouldn't give the Eagles anything.
Gets me out of here.
You're shoving. Well, let's see. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't care. He's going to get that money either way it goes.
All right, let's examine that.
Go ahead. The difference of where you'd want to play.
Yeah,
I think you just made Harry's point, where it's like if you know you're out and the team knows you're out and both sides want you out, then flex whatever power or ability that you have
Absolutely.
Say that people would like it, but Carson is looking at this like, well, if I know I'm out and I'm getting my wish, why not go to in? It's just the worst kept secret.
Exactly.
Like, that's all it is.
Well, why does he dislike it so much here? Or why does he want to get out of here so badly? What has been so bad here? I mean, outside of him getting hurt every freaking year, what has been so bad about being in Philadelphia for him?
And that's it. There is nothing. There is nothing. There is nothing.
That's why I say the ball's on him.
Well, wait a second. There is something.
What?
And we just talked to a guy who was part of the something, and Joe Santaliquito. Every single year, except his rookie season, there has been some sort of reports that come out saying he's a tough guy to deal with.
But that's on him.
Yeah. Yes. Look, Harry, I'm not justifying Carson moving on. I'm just trying to answer your question.
Okay, but I'm saying usually they say it's, the fan base is so tough to deal with. The media is so tough, all that. Bullshit. We're not on the radio.
No, we're not on the radio.
That is not Carson's case here. Everything that we have read about, and you're right, every year something comes out. There's some little story that just doesn't seem right, where you're like, man, something ain't right with him and the rest of this.
You want to get out of here? I mean,
if he's still the same guy, isn't that going to follow him to Indianapolis, even though there might be 10 less reporters covering the team?
He's not going to lose his stripes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was just going to say this is what Barrett and I have been fighting about, but he's right, and that's where we agree, which is Carson doesn't change his stripes, but a person like that, Harry, doesn't recognize that they need to change their stripes. That's why they don't change their stripes. So for Carson, if he it's always been about getting people around you out. Get rid of this coach, get rid of this coordinator, get rid of this position coach, get rid of this player. Just get rid of everybody around Carson, and then he'll change. So for Carson, it's let me get out of here, and just a new place is going to help change, as opposed to what we all see, all three of us agree on, which is he himself needs to change from the inside. I just don't think that's going to happen.
But do you understand that it's like that for most of the quarterbacks in the league? Most elite level quarterbacks are they're into doing what they do. Like Carson, you could get along with. That's why Fletcher Cox and Carson get along, because of this. They both love hunting. They both love guns.
Yeah,
I mean, if
they're
you
both
love
hillbillies, let's face it.
Yeah, so in the most slim sense of describing who Carson Wentz is, if you don't love the Lord and you don't love guns, then you're not going to likely be my friend. But you don't have to be my friend to go out there and produce.
Right.
And that's a problem. This 1 year, he did not produce. Just 1 year, he didn't produce. And now that 1 year, you're going to base your entire career on after that? You can't do that. That's why
I'm not going to base his career off 2017, because
you can't do that either. Right.
That's
you can't do that either. You can't do that either. So at the end of the day,
so he's really.
I was Carson. I wouldn't bend for the Eagles. I wouldn't help the Eagles out in any type of way. You're trying to get me out of here. You're trying to get me out of here.
Here's where, though, I think we have evidence in this league of you can do or be who you want, but you have to get better. And that's Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't this guy who, like Carson, wasn't coming out boisterous, being like, nobody can tell me anything. I know what I'm doing here. Leave me the hell alone. But there was a concern that Josh Allen simply couldn't play football. And he worked and got the right help and everything, but he accepted it.
Well, see, that's not a good example.
And he got a frontline receiver.
Right. That's not a good way to describe Carson. I think more so you have to look at Carson, the aspect of, all right, look at A-Rod. Aaron Rodgers can be that prick. He can be that guy because of what he's done, his performance on the field. He is not a friendly guy. He's not the guy that you're going to go out and kick it and say kumbaya with. He's not that guy either.
Yeah.
He's very self-centered. He's very egotistical. He's more about himself than anything else.
No doubt he's starting to build a resume of losing big games at home in the playoffs.
But his production allows him to act that way. As long as Carson was producing, he was allowed to act the way he was acting. The first time he doesn't produce, now everything's like, all right, then, we got to change this.
But
You can't do this.
That's not accurate. Look at, again, you go back to the last 4 years and people were having problems with him even when he was producing.
Absolutely.
There was still stuff coming out about Carson Wentz.
And there's still stuff coming out about A-Rod. A-Rod also.
What, last year or so? There wasn't coming out.
Yes, absolutely.
About Aaron Rodgers? Where?
He's difficult to deal with. I mean, you're not in Green Bay, so you don't see it, you don't hear it. But yes, people say it all the time. Even Russell, even Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson is not a guy that people like on the team. Really?
Wait a second. Something that was said by a former teammate, Greg Jennings, 6 years ago, is not the same as people are still saying it right now in Green Bay.
All right.
That's
what if you look back at last year,
counter to your point, then
look at last year and the stuff that he was saying about his head coach. Just go back and research it. What he was saying, how the offense wasn't conducive to help him out. He was voicing all that stuff last year. You didn't hear it this year because they get along now. That stuff will always be there.
But that's Rodgers talking.
Right. Exactly. So
that's
when you produce. When you produce, you can do that.
That's why the whole thing about Josh Allen is apt here, because you have a guy who was so bad on the field that was getting criticized, that was constantly the topic of discussion because that was a playoff team the year before, when everybody was talking about how bad he was particularly, and the team needed to move up, the team needed to upgrade. And you had somebody who worked at their craft in the offseason and didn't buy into all the negativity and the hype and didn't push for a trade or something along those lines. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, is at that point, but is looking at trying to get out as means to get better. And that's where I think the disconnect is between the two, where it doesn't, like, we can't compare Carson Wentz to Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, because these guys can do whatever the hell they want. But at one point, you're right, where people were upset with him and everything. But even Tom Brady, like, I'm sure Tom Brady was difficult at times down in Tampa Bay and everything like that. But you have the cachet built in already. Carson never had that.
No,
never had that.
Well, Carson, we were talking about what was coming on, so you're talking about Joe's article and all the bad stuff we're talking about that. Yeah. You never had that character flaw when you talked about Josh Allen. It was his play on the field that was dictating a change that he needed to change.
But he was getting crushed like Carson was getting crushed. There was a constant amount of discussion about how bad Josh Allen was and how much he was holding
his play on the field.
Right.
Up until last year, that was never discussion. His discussion with Carson Wentz was, could he stay healthy? It had nothing to do with his play on the field. His play on the field was when he was healthy, was good, with the exception of last year. When he was on the field, he produced. Oh, so he didn't. You're saying he didn't?
No. I'm just confused, because
I'm confused too, because you're saying that the article on Joe came out. I mean, the article Joe came out, and that's pinpointing all the stuff that he did inside the locker room. You never had that stuff with Josh Allen. His performance dictated him needing to change, and he changed because his performance wasn't well. This is just now with Carson's performance. It was more so about the way he his injuries more so than anything as far as his performance on the field. That's a total difference in both scenarios.
We've been talking about Carson Wentz's performance on the field for an entire season and how it needs to change and how he needs to get better.
Yes, for this year.
We just had a quarterback who went through that, and for his career up until this past season was a constant talk about discussion. The thing about Wentz just makes it worse for Wentz, that there are still, like, that's what makes this so bad about Carson Wentz, is that he's dealing with issues on both ends. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. He's getting criticized, and he doesn't have the backing of it to say, look, I've got rings, I've got experience to back it up. And then on the flip side, he's getting criticized for his play on the field, like we saw Josh Allen last year. And there isn't anything outside of what we have so far. Just get me out of town, and that will be the savior.
But it's not just get me out of town. It's get me out of town to a particular place, which is really what's screwing things up apparently right now. And that's what kind of pisses me off as an Eagles fan is that why shouldn't he want to go to the Bears if he just wants to get the hell out of here? The Bears were a playoff team last year. They're a quarterback away from being a really good team. They got a good defense. They got some good components on that offense outside of the quarterback. He could be the difference.
Would you?
I don't think he's still.
Chicago's a great sports town.
That's where quarterbacks go to die.
Come on, tell him, Barrett.
What quarterback is coming out of there?
Carson's the difference. Don't you want to be the difference maker?
Tell him.
Yeah, this is where quarterbacks went to die. What am I? You think I'm Bobby Douglas, a right-handed Bobby Douglas? Screw you. I'm going to come in here and throw for 4,000 yards.
Well, we know that he's not going to come in with that mentality because
he should.
Yeah, he
Don't
should.
Be a pussy.
He should, but he's not going to do that. We know what type of person he wants to leave because he doesn't even want that competition.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't even want that
he's
competition.
A pussy. You know what? Yeah. I like not being on Sports Map Radio. I like being able to say what I want.
Eric Kramer had the best single.
Yeah, Eric Kramer. Right. Yeah,
Eric Kramer.
Carolina State, NC State.
3,800 yards, 29. So in the modern era, you haven't had a quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, with 24-12 and 32-23 yardage. That's it.
Harbaugh went and died there. Even
Harbaugh was never any good. Come on, Harbaugh.
That's Barrett's guy, man.
He was the game manager of game managers.
Of course. But we're talking about the place where
that's why his teams in Michigan stink. Because he thinks because the quarterback is him. That's why. That's why they suck.
Hold on a second, though. Here's my question. And
Harbaugh.
I get what you're saying, Harry. I'm not disagreeing with you and your frustration. But if you had a choice, and it's so rare in the NFL that you have a choice, but shouldn't it factor in? And Indianapolis is no paradise. All right, I'm not making
a
it
nice
out
town,
to Honolulu by any means, but yeah, it's just you can go to Indianapolis and not die. You go to Chicago and it's like you're cold and miserable. It's dark.
Hey, it's cold in Indianapolis too, bro. I mean,
they're
not that far away from each other.
I get it. Like I said, I'm not trying to paint it out.
He won't be protected there.
No,
he won't be protected there. Their offensive line sucks in Chicago. But think about, all right, if I was Carson, I would want to go to Indianapolis because, number one, they have a top-ranked offensive line. They have a top-ranked defense. All they need to do is plug him in. Mm-hmm. Got T.Y. Hilton, they can throw the ball. They have the young running back from Wisconsin. He can run the rock. He turned into a great player. They have all the pieces to make him a great player in that offense, on that team. He could be that cog to take him to the next level.
Hey,
I don't know if he can do that in Chicago.
I'm not arguing the Indianapolis part of this. I get it. I like that team. I like them with Phillip Rivers. That's a team that's ready to win too. But all my point is that he's making it out like it's the Indianapolis Colts or the Jaguars. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the Jaguars. Chicago's a good sports town. He could be the toast of that town if he comes in there and does what he's supposed to do and plays close to what he played to in 2017. They'll be kissing his feet.
Well, at this point, he's not going to give them any type of leverage or anything else. He's going to stay quiet. Things are going to stay status quo. He's not going to give them any affirmation besides with the Colts of where he wants to go.
Then why doesn't he just say, you know what, I want to stay here?
I don't think he has a problem with that either.
He doesn't?
This is what I've been pushing, though, here for the last couple of days here, last week. And I'll read you Stephen Holder's tweet. He covers the Colts out west. I think he's with The Athletic now. Yeah.
What's his name?
Stephen Holder.
Okay.
On Carson Wentz /Colts Talks. And mind you, you go ahead and look. You won't find many people, if any, Chicago check marks talking about how deep they are in negotiations or anything like that. There are not many people at all in Chicago reporting on the Bears and Eagles in discussions. It seems to be what's been taken on and picked up by the Howie stuff that started initially back with Rob Motti. You do have people in Indy like Holder tweeting this stuff on Carson Wentz /Colts Talks. This is standard operating procedure for GM Chris Ballard, whether in trades or free agency negotiations. Evaluate, set a price threshold, and stick to it. You can view that as a negative or positive, but that's how it works, always. So he's not budging. And that's been what I've been saying for a minute now, is the one constant in all of this is Flip and Frank Reich. The two guys on the two teams that have truly been named and labeled as in on this stuff with Wentz have guys who were in that building. And Frank Reich knows exactly what Chicago is going to do, like Flip knows exactly what Reich in Indianapolis. And there's really no leverage. There really isn't. And to be honest with you guys, I don't necessarily think we have precedent of something like this, where a guy and a team split, and there really are only two destinations, and those destinations, what makes them destination is because you have two former coaches of this guy.
Familiarity with him.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unique,
right?
I'm waiting for, and we can count the days down. What do we got? Like a month till the new league year, I believe. John McMullen tweeted that today. So when is the mystery team going to emerge? Remember how there's always a mystery team that's thrown in?
Exactly. When Chicago trades for somebody else, then you'll see the mystery team pop in. Because
so it won't be a third team. It'll be another second team. Colts and mystery team. Yeah. Because the Bears are out of it.
And Howie needs to leverage.
And also, we need to look at this also. The Eagles are not in they're not in trade now mode like immediately. They can wait on this a little bit, I mean, they can wait until they have to pay this $10 million. They'll get a sense of urgency right around that time. But at this point, they have no need to be urgent as far as trading. They can wait. They can field more offers. They can sit back and just bring in as much information as they can to see what type of deal they can get for Carson. And in the same sense, Carson at this point doesn't have to say anything, nor would he say anything that would hurt anything that wouldn't hurt any trade that he could have. They don't want him to say anything. Carson shouldn't say anything. He should just do what he's doing right now. He's not leaking anything. He's not saying anything. Right. I bet he told his camp, you better not say one word. Let this play out because I'm in no hurry. I'm in no rush. All I know is next year I'm going to collect $33.8 million.
Right.
Well, it's clear that neither side want to work together.
Right.
Otherwise you would have, we've seen this plenty of times where a team has come out and refuted, no, we're not trying to trade this guy, or a player has come out and said, Tariq Cohen, who was rumored initially in a Bears deal, came out on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you all are getting this stuff. I just talked to the GM. I'm good. I'm
right.
here. I enjoy David Montgomery put out a cryptic tweet.
Did Robinson too, the wide receiver?
No, I think he wants out.
He does? Okay.
I mean, I don't know him, but I remember he took all the stuff off of Chicago on his social and some other things.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I mean, Barrett, we don't have any of that, right? Like we don't have Carson even coming out on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and saying, even a post, not him himself, but like a post saying, I love it here in Philadelphia. I don't know what's going on here. You know what I mean? Like this thing is going to be interesting if they don't move him because of what's happened in the offseason, where normally you have right down to this team in the past coming out, like Howie is quick to refute if somebody gets ahead of him on a story. And we haven't had anything like that at all. I'm still looking in Chicago to try to find something to connect.
At the end of the day, people are thinking with their hearts. They're thinking, you have to look at the NFL as a business. You have to look at the NFL as, even though it's a $1 billion business, that it's a heartfelt business. You watch the game, your heart's all in it. They run it like a business. Dollars and cents make more sense to them than athletic talent. So that is how things are going to be conducted. Fair market value. Yes, our fair market value and way we think is a lot different from people in that front office of the Eagles, and also different in front offices in the 31 other teams. They're thinking from a monetary standpoint. How can this commodity make me money? And that's that's what it is. That pure and simple. They want to know. I mean, there could be a team like Minnesota. Minnesota has more ties to Carson Wentz than any other NFL team because he grew up right down the street. I mean, they used to go to games there. All that stuff was said during the Super Bowl. You never know. That's what I'm saying. You never know. Yeah. Just like it makes a lot of sense for Deshaun Watson to go to the Panthers because he went to Clemson.
Right.
It'll bring fans. It's a closer drive to Clemson to Carolina.
What would happen if Minnesota would trade Cousins to the Niners?
Then it would
Well,
open it up
that's
for
been
yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
At least. That's
Right.
been brought up.
But I'm
That's
saying,
been-
like, what if that's a reality? Then that
And
could
that
open
would
up
be
a
your
real
favorite
spot
team.
for him.
That's what I'm saying. Because
Yeah.
they love Carson there. They love
Right.
Carson
In
Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Yes.
Yeah.
He does?
And when you can woo, when you can
The
woo a
Vikings
fan
do?
base. Well, I'm talking about the fan base. If you
Oh.
can woo a fan base, sometimes fan bases influence your decision making as an organization. It does.
So you
Just like
the Vikings are going to trade for Carson Wentz because
No, I'm saying
we don't
I'm just
even
trying
have
to give
this stuff-
scenarios.
No, I get it, but we don't even have this level of smoke in Chicago.
Right.
Where Chicago has been talked about it. Look, again, it's coming out more in Indianapolis. This is another guy for the Athletic. While it's been quiet, Eagles and Colts have continued trade talks for Carson Wentz.
Right.
One important aspect of this, I'm told, Indy hasn't significantly changed its offer from where it started more than a week ago. For the most part, Colts aren't budging. So let's look at that. Who else is involved? Like, if you know that let's say you're Minnesota or Denver or these other teams, this mystery team, if you know that the Colts haven't moved off their rock of 2 2s or a 2 and a 4, whatever, not a 1.
It's not a 1.
No. And you know that they're not budging. Why are you all of a sudden going to come in and trump that offer?
Because you got a month to do it.
But I'm saying, give something better. You're going to swoop in and give something higher than what the Colts haven't been budging off. So you're going to be the team that gives a first rounder in after.
Well,
3
if you
months.
really want him, yeah, that would get it done, right?
But you
The
don't.
Colts have a
to
need.
wait.
Yeah. The Colts have a need right now.
Yes, but the Colts. It's like the Colts aren't dropping the value or raising the value. They're just keeping their own value right there. So if you're Denver or Minnesota, to Barrett's point about the Vikings, then you don't need to wait. The value right now is set to whatever the Colts are because they're the one or only team or one of 2 teams going back and forth. So if you wait a month, the value for Carson Wentz is not going to drop because the Colts haven't budged.
Right. But
So
the
there's no
deadline produces this. You come in at 6 hours before the deadline where they got to pay him the bonus and say, all right, we'll give you a first and a fifth or a first and a fourth. Boom, you might be able to get the deal done there. You do that today, they've got 30 days to make more out of that.
Yep. It'll just press up his value. And they're definitely not going to do that.
But they but
the Eagles aren't in a rush.
They haven't been able to do that, though, guys.
Right. Exactly.
They haven't been able to do your scenario where somebody offers something and they turn around and they bump it up. We're talking about one team that hasn't budged. We don't even get reports about what's going on in Chicago. At least there's stuff coming out in Indianapolis about the Colts not budging, They're not budging because they realize there's nobody else.
And the Eagles at this point aren't either. So the only a month from now, negotiating for the Eagles will start getting a little tighter because their butts will start getting a little tighter because they have to then decide whether they're gonna, what direction you're gonna go, or they're still gonna have to pay this $10 million. So their projection will be, all right, we got to get this done. But everybody else's projection, I can't see anybody making a move really until the draft.
Right. So when the Eagles belts tighten and their pants get hotter and they realize they have to make a deal, their leverage doesn't increase.
It drops.
Exactly. So my point in all of this is right now, if the Colts are not budging off their rock, and we know that it's not a deal that the Eagles want because it's not a deal that they would accept for market value. We also don't have anybody else in any other market reporting anything remotely close to what we get in Indianapolis. Where all of a sudden is this better deal going to come from the Eagles standpoint? That's what I'm having trouble understanding, because I look at it like if I'm a team right now, I can swoop in and say, hey, Indy's offering you a 2 and a third or a 2 and a 4. Then I can come in and say, let's get it done right now, a 2 and a 3. So maybe you can get something better on the back end, but I don't know how a team comes in and says, here you go, take my first round pick, when nobody, including Indy, is willing to give up a first-round pick now. Unless you're saying a team is going to be so desperate that they step in and say, here's a first-round pick. But even then, they don't have to because the market's been set by Indy, right?
Yeah, the market's been set by number 2, and I mean, a 2 and a conditional draft pick that might go into being a 2. It might move into being a 2. That's the market right now. That's Carson's market. That's what they've been offered for what we've been heard. They've offered them a number 2 draft pick and a compensation pick that may turn into a draft pick. That's it. That's the level right there. So if you're another team, you're not going to go in, just like you said, you're not going to do it. But the Eagles aren't in any type of rush to make this happen. They have a month.
Right. Until
so in saying that, that's why it's so hard for me to say Carson's going to get traded. Because this market is not going to get any better. It's just going to go down because Indianapolis has set the mark on which the market for Carson
I wonder what their
is.
fallback plan is, Indianapolis. Like, who is it? Who's the guy?
I know. What's his name? Brissett, whatever his name is. He's not a free agent.
Yeah,
he's a free agent. So
right.
they don't have a quarterback.
They don't have a guy.
No,
but what are they offering up? Like, what capital are they giving up in this sense? Because I think that would help. Let's look at the Colts draft picks that they have, right? So if they have a ton of stock, a ton of capital, then maybe they get in the Derek Carr, maybe they get in those type of sweepstakes. I don't know if they can. Nobody I know can compete with the Jets if the Jets truly wanted to offer up everything from a package. But the Colts right now, I mean, they've got a pretty good package, I guess, of first rounders they could put together. You know, they have all their picks.
Are you talking about moving up in the draft, or are you talking about giving away to get an established veteran?
The latter.
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough capital to move up from where they are in the draft to get a quarterback. Even at Trey Lance, I think might be a risk, unless they're settling on Mac Jones. But I don't think that would be the move. So what do you really have here? The Colts offering up what a normal team would have. I'm looking at it. They don't have a second 2, or they don't have, like 3 3s coming into this draft or the next draft. They pretty much have all their draft picks 1 through
1
7.
per round.
Yeah, over the next couple of years. So, yeah, I think they're pretty much in that mid-range quarterback. Do you trade for Sam Darnold and not give up much at all as a backup plan? Do you sign Mitchell Trubisky as a free agent?
See, there lies the problem, because they're ready to compete. They're ready to win their division.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah. They're ready to compete in their division. They're ready to make a run at Kansas City.
That team could go deep.
Yes, they can compete against their defense can compete against that offense. That offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the league, and they're still young right now. They don't have to pay those guys right now. Nelson is the best guard in the league. So, I mean, they do have some urgency in knowing who that quarterback's going to be. That's why I don't necessarily say that they're going to go in and draft a guy, because they want to win now. And that might be the only thing that might, speed up this process. But, at this point, I mean, a team like New England has all 7 of their draft picks. They have a bunch of cap value that they can have. They're like $50 million under the cap. One of the few teams that are under the cap, $60 million under the cap. I mean, they could, go out and give an impressive deal also, probably more so than the Jets, besides at the quarterback position. Sam Darnold is probably their biggest bargaining piece, and then their 7 draft picks.
Yeah, but the Jets aren't going to deal with the Patriots.
No.
No way.
I'm talking about dealing with the Eagles or even Houston as far as bringing in a quarterback. And we're still leaving out Houston in there.
Deshaun Watson in New England would be really interesting.
Oh my goodness! That's Deshaun Watson anywhere. I mean, put him in like you said in any offense. He's a definite a major difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
But
sorry, Matt.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I'm the Jets, I'm going to throw as much as I possibly can at Houston and just get Watson back via picks. And then I'm going to go to Chicago, to Indy, to other places and say, here's Sam Darnold, give me a third, and try and really maximize what I can get for Sam Darnold and bring a pick. It's not going to be the same level, but at least bring a pick back.
I would definitely
the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I would definitely go with Deshaun Watson over a draft pick at this point.
No question.
If you're the Jets, you can give up a ton of picks.
Right.
Remember.
Right.
Cleveland did the same thing. Cleveland did the same thing the past 5 years.
Right.
Until they got to this, these last 2 years. Now they're starting to reap the benefits of all those picks that they had. As far as trading, maneuvering. I mean, Cleveland, had a good season, from being the worst in the league. So I mean, it's proven it works. But at this point, nobody really is going to put any pressure on the Colts and one up the Colts when the market value for Carson has been set at a number 2 pick and a conditional pick.
Man, can you imagine if Jamal Adams turns into Deshaun Watson? Jets trade Adams to Seattle for 2 first-round picks, and then theoretically could throw 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years.
How sweet is that deal?
Seattle might not. That division is tough, and that division, even when you're bad, you're not bad for long. I don't think anybody's really going to count San Fran out. So who knows what happens with those picks? You might get 4 first-round picks on top of maybe something else back for Watson. And that would essentially be your own picks in Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
So Joe Douglas right now has got the keys to the city.
Yep.
He's got a major bargaining pick with Sam Darnold. He has 2 first-round picks, one for this year and one for next year that he got from Seattle. That's why
stupid was that trade now for Seattle.
And that's exactly why Russell Wilson is trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
He's trying to get out of it because of that. Now they can't protect him now. They can't bring in any big-time offensive linemen because they have no draft capital to do it.
And it's crazy because this is, you talk about a bad trade or a bad slip-up. John Schneider out there, that general manager, is not known for making bad moves and bad decisions, especially when it comes to money and giving up stuff. And this was so far of a departure from his norm. You understand why Russell is telling people, hey, I need more control of the personnel.
But they've had a real problem, trying to retool their defense since they lost all those secondary guys.
Right.
They've not been the same.
No, that's true.